This is the last part of the topic of skill-based matchmaking, where I try to point out that the issues around this topic revolves around how the people play these games rather than there being a problem with the system itself. Most of the conversations I've seen surrounding this topic, the people taking issue with the system are almost always only talking about how their games feel too sweaty, that they are always playing against tryhard, among other things. But let me ask you this. If you make the switch to connection-based matchmaking, do you honestly think your opponents aren't going to be considering you the tryhard? The only thing that would change is that you will be the source of the crappy feeling for loads more people because you will always be the one that outperforms everybody else just so that you can get in on your so-called fun. I should specify that the people that seem to take the most issue with skill-based matchmaking are those that are on the higher end of the skill brackets. This seems to be the part of the reasons why the conversation in part shifts towards there being the casual versus the dedicated players. But why does having a problem with how an in-game system works mean that it's a fault of anybody else that might be benefited from it? Aren't everybody here looking to have fun with the same game? If anything, the casuals actually have a great advantage in that regard since they match people with the same relaxed mindset that are also fun to be had since perhaps winning ain't exactly too important to them. On the other hand, dedicated players are so focused on winning, performing well, or otherwise always having the game go their way, that they start getting mad and dissatisfied when that doesn't happen. Skill-based matchmaking ain't about enabling a player's win streak, it is about ensuring that people get high-quality matches that normally means having an even playing field. And before people start going, oh casuals don't want to get better, let it be known that part of the issues of this conversation is how all this came about because some of you actually got better at these type of games. And even though that statement gets thrown around every so often, the reality is that you all don't really want more people to actually get better, since that just means that there will be more sort of people around which only leads to more complaining. Almost like there's a cost to getting better in a game, something that is never brought up most likely because it's never been considered. Like, here we have a bunch of players grinding their skills to be the best as possible, and somehow they think that they should still match against less skilled players, just because they enter a casual game mode. If you worked so hard to hone those skills, why would it be so important to match against casuals? And it's not lost on me that once you reach a certain skill level, the game kinda stops being as satisfying as it once was. But that is part of the process of getting better and understanding that it's necessary to move this conversation in any meaningful direction. At some point, the skills you have acquired will enable you to perform vastly better than most people, even when you are given the bare minimum, playing almost on autopilot as you have YouTube playing in the background. Which is something that they completely ignore as they make the argument that you need to match against better players because that is the only way to improve. Not only do wide skill gap force others to try harder, all the while they might not even be enjoying the match. But that is what is skill-based matchmaking supposed to do in a less drastic fashion in order to keep people playing for longer periods. This is pretty important when you consider how unpleasant it can be to learn any competitive game. In the learning process, you will get a healthy dose of losses, sometimes even falling into losing streaks as you develop your skills and learn whatever the meta might be. Getting matched against people way better than you that will destroy you in no time at all ain't the educational or motivational experience that people think it is. Then there is perhaps the surprising reality that some casuals might simply not want to actively get better. In my personal experience with competitive games, I found that it's better to keep the casual mindset since it perpetuates my enjoyment of the game rather than let it stop being fun because I took it too seriously. It let me use a wider range of options since metas aren't a big of a priority. There's also the time investment aspect that might end up being unappealing because there are loads more games to play and a requirement to getting better is a long time investment in that particular game. At the end of the day, there is a lot that must be done in order to improve that simply might not be appealing to those that are just playing a video game. That's how you can end up with the consideration that sweaty players can ruin the general player experience. In any case, why do the so-called dedicated players bother so much with the casuals when many of them only aspire to be the very best that no one ever was from the comfort of the gaming chair? Many don't even want to go pro, satisfied with simply being content creators with a lot of them actually making a good living out of it. In spite of all the hubbub of casuals not wanting to get better, these same people reach a point where they don't want to get better since they reach a comfort zone. Mind you, some of them probably have been playing shooters for almost 10 years, so there's a high probability that their skills haven't gotten any substantial gains since then because shooters haven't really innovated much during that time. At the end of the day, there are shortcomings to getting better that can't be addressed because that's just the nature of competitive gaming. The best thing to do about it is to live by the notion that it's not that serious, and to treat video game as just a video game. If your skill reaches a level that prevents you from enjoying it, then just drop it and move on to other games, or maybe even touch some grass. Just because you invested a lot of time and money into it does not mean that you are shackled to it. If you do decide to keep playing, maybe stop taking it so seriously and just play the game since you are having fun, then it shouldn't matter whether or not you win or lose. Skill-based matchmaking enables that fun for the most amount of people, and that is what matters for the most part. And it's not like developers don't try to balance some things around higher skilled players, but it's hard to do that while also trying to avoid disrupting the casual experience. So if there's any way to move this conversation forward, we have to understand the limitations of the games we play, why we play, and what we hope to get out of them. If people figure that out, I'm pretty sure there would at least be more conversational when the topic comes up, and maybe even be more constructive about it since it turns out we all want the same thing. We want to play video games and enjoy them for as long as possible regardless of our skill. And that is where I'm going to end my take on the skill-based matchmaking topic. Drop a like if you feel more informed about it, drop a comment down below of what you all thought about skill-based matchmaking, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to keep up to date with my content. Take care and thank you all for watching.